Peace, y'all. It's your man, Dave. You may have heard me alongside my brother Quest on the Marriage Ain't for Suckers program. We're still going strong, and now it's time to take it up a notch. This is the Grown and Married program with my co-host, my rib, the queen of my castle, the queen of my life, Simone Harris. We've been friends for almost 30 years and married for almost 20. So we know a thing or two about making marriage and relationships work if you're willing to make it work. So gather around, y'all. Share this with your spouses, your friends, your frenemies, and yes, even your enemies. And let's make marriages phenomenal together. Queen Simone, I know you're ready. I know you're set. So let's go. Hey. This is L. David Harris. I am your host, and I am delighted that you have chosen to invest your time with us. It's a blessing for us to be able to share together. It is another opportunity for us to make marriages not just great, not just good, better, best, but phenomenal. And of course, I am running alongside my good wife, my only one good wife, Queen Simone. Hey, Simone.
Hey, David. How are you?
I'm good. Good. It's time to turn it up.
Yes, it is. I'm ready. Let's turn it up.
Yeah, let's get it. So today we are continuing in our programs. We're going to go as many times as possible, because marriages are dying right in front of us, and we have to make our contribution while there is still time. And so today, we're going to continue with our questions and our answers. That's a new feature that we started. And you can go to grownandmarried.com to have your opportunity to share a question. And maybe you'll be one of the people that we give answers to. Grownandmarried.com. And at the appropriate time, we will discuss the question from... We're not going to leave the name because maybe the person doesn't want you to know who he or she is.
Right.
Okay, we know it's a woman this time, but yeah. So we're not going to give the name, but we will give the question, and hopefully more people will benefit from it, okay?
Word.
What?
I said word.
Word?
Yes, you said okay.
And you said word. Okay.
All right.
Yes. All right. So let's get underway. So our relationship question today is, my husband works very hard, sometimes 7 days a week. Now, let me just start with, before we even get to the question, that 7 days a week thing, I understand it. I need the money like everybody else.
Right.
That makes things difficult just on the strength of that. But let's continue with the question. When he comes home, he likes to unwind and catch up on social media. Then WhatsApp groups were added to the mix, and now an app with access to hundreds of TV channels is also in the equation. The kids and I ask for attention, but it's shrugged off. I play board games, cards, etc. with them until my bedtime so that they get quality time and he gets quiet time. But it's becoming harder to accept, and he is not a talker. So what do we do here, Simone? Let's get started.
My, oh my. Yes.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is a big one. Because you're trying to give him his space, because obviously, after a hard day at work, you just want to unwind. But how do you make it work, especially when you have children and then you have your wife who, she has needs, and she needs that side of you that will provide those needs. First, I would like to say or ask them, do they have their time where they actually talk? Have she spoken to him about this?
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
So that's the first thing. Just say, hey, can we talk, and try to get that out there. Try and see where his head is. Because a lot of times I think, as spouses, we forget that we need to talk, and that communication piece, it just gets buried, especially when we have children. So
let me interrupt you there because she said the kids and I asked for his attention, but it shrugged off. So
yeah, but that's the kids and I. How about you? What do you do to get that attention? Do you assume that he doesn't want to talk, even though you say he's not a talker. But maybe it's probably you have to choose a time where you say, you know what, maybe ask the grandparents or a friend or someone, hey, can you watch the kids for a couple hours? I need to spend some time with spouse, and, you know, and set up a time where the both of you can sit down and talk about these things without the kids being around. Because if you do it with the kids around, it can, you know, if it gets a little heated between you and him, you don't want the children to hear, you know, that exchange that could like get heated. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So set up an intimate time for the both of you to sit down and talk, and maybe not even do it at home. But if he's comfortable doing it at home, then do it at home. But the first step for me is to talk about it.
Yeah. And the reality is that all of us have our needs, and it's not that, you know, a good spouse is trying to hurt the other spouse.
Right.
So she's not trying to hurt him. He's not trying to hurt her. And definitely the children aren't trying to hurt anybody. So we have to think the best of one another, hopefully at first, and then see what happens when we try to communicate our needs. Now, truth is, you know, when people are fighting traffic, and I say people, in this case, the guy, but it could be in reverse, fighting traffic, fighting the boss. And, you know, if you have employees or coworkers or whatever, sometimes it's difficult. And so I think there needs to be a plan for that necessary time. Like for me, I work from home, so I don't get that drive home time to get my mind clear. So as soon as I open the door, it's back to regular life. And so people need to plan how to unwind and it be reasonable for everybody involved. If it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if it's a hot bath, whatever it is.
Right.
And then when you're supposed to be on with the family, be on with the family. That's the first thing. But secondly, it's all about the relationship. That's the thing. So it's not about what makes me feel better. It's not what makes Simone feel better, but what makes the family function, what makes the family more balanced. And once we look at it from a family perspective, then our individual needs, they don't go away, but they're brought into perspective.
Right.
And so a healthy husband, a healthy wife means two parts of a happy family. And of course, now we can be available for our children. So I wouldn't cast aside either one of their needs, but there definitely needs to be a balance. What can I do to help you balance? What can you do to help me feel like whatever it is that I'm after by, let's see, the man likes to watch the movies and social media. So what is it that we can do to kind of satisfy some of that need without having to retreat there?
Right. And I guess what I was when I said, you know, she has needs and stuff like that, I was basically just saying, you know, they both need to talk it out and see what the issues are. And I like your approach to when you said, you know, what can I do to make that work for us as a family?
Yeah.
You know, because if you do go in there gung ho style and say, well, I need you and you not with, you know, you're not listening to us and you're not listening to me, then it kind of, at that point, it will put him on the defense. So yes, what can I do to ensure that, you know, we have that time together with you? Or, you know, what can I do or the children and I do to make this work for us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and is there something that you need? Like, you know, you need.
Yes.
Can we choose a period of time where you just unwind? Because real talk, like it's a dog eat dog world out there.
Yes. Yes.
And especially if the person's a business owner, it even worse, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
because
a lot of needs. We just need to work it out together. And if it gets to a, you know, fever pitch, then of course you need a third party to help you sort it out, because this is not an insurmountable problem.
No, it's not
something that we have to get through before it turns into an insurmountable problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, very good stuff. We're not trying to do therapy on the radio. If you want to get some, you know, some more intervention, just go ahead and go to that website, grownandmarried.com, and you can set up an appointment. We can do relationship assessments and all that kind of good stuff to help you get through some of these difficulties. All right. So for today, we are getting into a subject, and Simone was like, well, what is that? The Scarlet Letter. Now, I didn't pay a lot of attention when I was in high school, and that was a long time ago.
Yes.
But somehow I remember from grade 10, I mean, when I say a long time ago, but somehow I remember a book titled The Scarlet Letter. And I thought it was Charlotte Bronte, but I think it's really Nathaniel Hawthorne. And, long story short, it's about, a man and a woman. Long story short, the woman is one who committed adultery. And a function of that in her time, in her town, they put an A on her chest in red, a scarlet colored A on her chest. And, the story goes on where she basically had to wear that. So everybody knew that she was a person who committed adultery. And I can't even say an adulteress. That makes me not feel too good.
Mm-hmm.
But she committed adultery and everybody needed to know it. And I won't go into the story because that's not really the focus per se. But what happens when, let's just say it's a woman and in the marriage, and the woman has had a lot of things happen in her life. Maybe she was abused when she was young. Maybe she was raped when she was young. And maybe she became promiscuous later on in her life. And she feels like now she's married and she feels like she's the thing that either A, happened to her as a victim, of molestation, of rape, of some other kind of sexual harassment. And she has identified herself with the problem to the point that she calls herself a name that's associated with the problem. And now all of that is brought into marriage, Yeah, all of that heavy burden of, I am this thing that I have either done or been victimized by. And now I'm married. Now what? And that's what a lot of people are going through right now.
Yes. Yeah. That is so true. And it's like you have a lot of people who, they went through all of this and they didn't get any help. They didn't get that second party help, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And you find that a lot of them also, they didn't talk about it with their spouse before they were married. Mm-hmm. And then something happens and it comes out in the marriage. And it causes a lot of strife.
Yeah.
A lot of mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
And a whole lot of other things. Especially it affects the intimate time, like when the sexual time that they share together.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's rough. It's rough.
And some people, I just picked the woman in this case, so we'll just keep it from that perspective because it's more that the dynamic is a little bit different when the man is the one who was victimized growing up. Mm-hmm. And he brought that into his marriage unresolved. It's a total different dynamic. But let's just talk about it from her perspective and how to reach across to hers, emotionally or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes there's a fear of intimacy in that case.
Yes.
Like a literal fear of intimacy, even though, maybe the wife obviously, well, not maybe, she knows that her husband loves her. Mm-hmm. Whatever positive relationship cues came across before that made her say yes when they decided to get married and maybe even have children. But when it comes to sharing all of herself, maybe there's still hangups. Maybe there's still body image problems. Maybe there's still a fear of being touched a certain way, or whether there's a self-esteem problem. I mean, there's a ton of different things, obviously, that you might go through, Simone, and you would know better than I would from a woman's perspective. But these are the kinds of things that, start to wear on a marriage when it's not addressed.
No, it's true. It is so true. And I've heard, from women who have actually gone through this and is going through this same situation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for them, I have, I've told them, I said, look, you need to get help. You really need to get help to resolve that, because some women, they actually, if they're touched the wrong way, then it triggers what I want to say. It triggers, whatever the situation that happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they realize, oh no, but it's my husband. And then they clamp down.
Right.
Now what? And so because you, and then they go through a period of depression with that. Mm-hmm. And then the husband now is like thinking, okay, what just happened? What did I do? And you can't even talk to them to tell them because you're afraid. There's some who are afraid, if I tell my husband what happened to me, he may never love me again, or he might be afraid to touch me, or, it's so much. So,
yeah. And that speaks to what, regardless of the actual issue, we're talking about sexual issues, but that brings in an overarching issue of insecurity. And when I say insecurity, I don't want people to get the misunderstanding. Sometimes people say, oh, because I am so type A, or I am so strong, then around me, people feel insecure. And I'm not talking about that. I'm saying sometimes women may feel insecure because they don't know where they stand in the marriage because of these triggers. Something happens in their intimate time that causes them to go back to that unresolved time in their lives. And of course, if you were a victim of something, then, and I'm understating it when I say something, I don't need to, get into the details, but we all know the many things that people go through, sometimes with sexual indiscretions. We've seen the Me Too movement, take a life of its own because so many of you have been mistreated and abused and sexually cast aside and castigated, and misogyny is just ridiculous in our societies. And so now you have this insecurity because it's like, what if it was an authority figure when you were young that did this? Right. What if it were somebody who constantly said, I love you, but you couldn't reconcile in your mind, well, if this person loves me, then why does what is happening to me feel so dirty? Why does it feel so evil? Why does it feel so bad? Why does he always have to try to convince me, but I don't feel it? Mm-hmm. Why is it like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Now I'm insecure because maybe there was just a little thing that happened, between the two spouses that triggered a memory. Mm-hmm. And now he's, your actual spouse is being charged subconsciously or unconsciously for crimes that some person who had no love for you committed 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. And another aspect to that just popped into my mind. You also have the issue of, will they believe me? Will they believe me? Because this has been going on for years, as you know, and we tend to sweep these things under the rug. And probably that's why now the Me Too movement has happened, because finally somebody is believing, somebody is hearing, someone is seeing it. And now it's like, oh, wow, we have been ignoring it all too long, And so again, it's the issue of, will they believe me? And again, that was one of the issues that I've heard surrounding this very topic. It's like, I don't know. They didn't believe me when I was younger, when I told my story, when as far as going to the courts, when as far as the person was acquitted. Mm-hmm. Because, and it was more than just me that came forward.
Right.
And now it's, okay, why should I say anything? They're not going to believe me. But I am here to say they will believe you sooner or later.
Yeah. Got to stick to it. And then there's the flip side of the disbelief that now you are with your husband. I'm going to pick the ideal situation. You're with your husband now, and he is showing you and telling you and, communicating in every way possible. And I don't just mean verbally, communicating his love for you, his dedication for you, the fact that you're all enough for him. And now maybe because there are some unresolved issues and you're wearing that sort of scarlet letter on your chest now saying, I am what happened to me. You may not believe the love that he's giving you. How could you love me like that? I don't buy it. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes when it's unresolved, where now she becomes sort of the unlovable person because she doesn't believe the love. You see how it goes in this cycle?
Yes.
And now it's a self-sabotaging situation because of the terrible thing that somebody who had no heart for you did to you. And now everybody has to pay for it until it's resolved.
Yes. And, with that, it's, again, we have to find a way to get the help that's needed so that you can put these feelings into perspective.
Yes.
Try to, I don't want to say identify, but, try to see where, that your husband loves you or your wife. But I think we were talking about the wife is the one that's going through it, right? Right. So, go ahead.
In this case.
Yes, in this case. And so, yes, just to get that help so she can put things in perspective, because the husband's going to just keep trying. And hopefully, if he really, really does love you, then he will continue to be there until you get the healing that you need.
Yeah.
And so it can work out. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but.
Yes. Well, we know that it's true. And, there are other perspectives too that, it's not always that the wife was a victim of something in particular. It could be also that she saw whoever took care of her, whoever was in the matriarchal position, either go through a divorce, could have been her actual mother, could have been a grandmother, an auntie, older sibling that took care of her growing up, and saw her going through divorce, and the precipitating factor of the divorce had to do with the same issue. And it's like, well, I don't want to be involved in a relationship where that's the feature.
Right.
And look, and there are no signs in this case. Again, I'm picking the ideal here. There are no signs that this is going on in your household, your current household. But again, there are those unresolved issues. And then there's a trigger. And then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this thing going to happen to me? A. B, should I be concerned if he is late one day? Because after all, my caretaker's husband or boyfriend was late a few times, and he happened to be a person who, brought home sexual indiscretion. And so should I be looking at my husband sideways because he's exhibiting this behavior, which in and of itself isn't wrong. But now you're wondering, like, is he doing it to me too? And it's like, well, in your case, no. But maybe there's something that needs to be dealt with so that you don't charge people who are with you currently with the crimes of others who are not even related to the situation.
Right.
And all this happens subconsciously. It's not something that you're doing on purpose. It just kind of sometimes happens because it's not been dealt with yet.
Right. And then you have to also recognize that, I'm thinking about it now. It's not even a trust issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not even a trust issue. It's a me issue where I need to take care of whatever that is
Yes.
that is causing me to have these thoughts. Because again, it's something that the spouse may do that triggers it, but you know that there is not a trust issue, that the spouse is faithful. You know, they're doing everything to make sure that you're happy and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a trust issue. It's an emotional, psychological thing that's going on that needs to be addressed.
Yes. So one of the things that husbands can do is, invest the time in showing love.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that, we're not doing it. It's just something that we have to be cognizant of because, the statistics are staggering, and it's not just for women. I mean, it is for men as well, but maybe we'll have to do a program from that perspective another time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Terry Crews giving his story in the media about when the guy at his agency touched him, and he's a big, 450-pound bench pressing dude. And the man reached across and grabbed his privates right in front of his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we know it's not a one-sided discussion, but, again, we're picking it from this perspective today.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is, we husbands have to invest more time and it doesn't have to be this particular issue. There are a lot of different hangups and things that have happened in all of our lives that make it necessary for us to invest more time in showing our love, speaking our love, manifesting love in whatever way we can, learning our spouse's love languages.
Right.
Good books out there about love languages,
mm-hmm.
so that we can give ourselves the best possible opportunity to overcome, the hangups. And you and I are Christians, so we know that we have to go to God first.
Yes.
To understand our spouses, because he created us.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are times that we need some human third-party intervention to help us process the things that we can't even understand about ourselves, much less our spouses.
Right.
Yeah.
And along with that, I would like to also add, the spouses, they pray, are they praying together?
Mm.
Are they worshiping each other with each other? Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself can help the other person to see, okay, they're really trying to help me here. I know that they love me, all of that. But, we pray together in the mornings. Are we praying before we go to our beds together?
Mm-hmm.
And if there are children involved, are we having worship with our children?
Right.
Because a lot of families are leaving that part out. They're leaving the morning and the evening sacrifices out.
Right.
And it's taking a toll on our families, taking a toll on the spouses. Are the spouses praying for each other?
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to get, as my man Quest always says, the order of operations in proper perspective. God first, marriage next, children next, and then comes everything else. The marriage, the two spouses together come even before the children, because we predated the children. We procreated, and the children are a product of our love. So we have to be healthy together so that we can be of as much value to our children, to our communities, and to those who look up to us, because our marriages are not just for us.
Right.
Our marriages also include people who look in and say, boy, I think I'm going to get some encouragement from the reality that marriage actually can work. So I'd like to just, thank all of you for joining us. Catch us on the next time. And leave a review. We'll chat with you next time. Peace.
Peace.
There you have it, y'all. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us. Marriage is about mutual love and mutual respect, and it works for those willing to make it work. Real talk, our spouses are treasured jewels given to us to make life better. And the sooner we learn to value one another will be the sooner we become the most phenomenal versions of ourselves we can be. Until next time, peace from Dave and the queen of my castle, Simone. We got love for you, baby.